Okay, good morning. This is day number 131 of making little videos describe a day or thought, the life of a schizophrenic. My name is Dominic, and I express in these videos some amount of sanity amidst the world going crazy and waging what NATO calls cognitive war and on me. And I experienced schizophrenia, but I believe it is inflicted upon me. In day 17 of these videos, I describe why I call myself a schizophrenic rather than targeted individual. And on day 45, I expressed why I make these videos. It is done to humanize me to some degree, as well as share some of my thought processes, which could have got me targeted. As I share those in a book that I've written uh, called Unveiling the Schizophrenic Tradition. It's on medium.com. I hope to publish it probably when I get back. I'm taking a trip to Spain and France and England for a few weeks, and when I come back, I will probably publish that book. I'll try to. And it also talks about technology and society, which could create voice hearing and other sensations with which is what schizophrenics have talked about for 100 years. And so I share that in the book. Okay. I talk here today. Sometimes I talk about like synchronicity things, feedback I get from government or politicians, or just in general, like going around in public and stuff like that. And I read little things out of books. And so I was going to start today in my Becoming Earth book. What I read today was a about earthworms and how earthworms are actually like affecting geology of the planet and other microorganisms as well as big animals. And so like biological life affects is the whole point of the book is to discuss how biological life affects the geology of the planet. And it was talking about like just like the 8,000 bison that are left of, just as for instance, for like a big animal, the 8,000 bison that are alive roaming around the western part of the United States today. They actually affect the geology of the planet, that their area that they're going on. And the author was saying, imagine if there was 30 to 60 million like there used to be before the genocide of Native Americans, where they killed all the bison. And so that was something I read today, so I was just going to share that out. In Homo Deus, he talks about like psychology and biology, like our systems and our thought processes are very much based on anal- an analogous references to machines or the top machines of the day. And he was talking about how, like, I think it was a psychologist was discussing how the military uses young men to go into the military at their peak. The whole point was the military uses young men to go at their peak sexual development, and then they repress that development, and then they use that development to blow off steam into aggression. That was like, I think Freud said that, or one of the psychologists, and that was all based on like the idea of like a steam engine, and so that filters into like official psychology language that gets heralded as like the premier ideas or whatever. And so, I mean, I'm not saying that that's what takes place, but that was just like an example that uh, the author was using in Homo Deus. And then in now we reference bodies and biology to computers because that's the number one thing for the day or whatever. So that's what I was reading about this, and it was like people, and it just gets me to my point, like, or something that I thought of in the past, that like people make sense of the world through people devise systems and ideas and structures in the world based on what makes sense to them. So like if you like there's like for even if you take a look at Darwin and the theory of survival of the fittest. That's all based on some sort of dominant social hierarchy idea that he was coming from at his time in the 1800s, and then it filters into something, and it's just like heralded as like, oh, this is the true way of the world, and you know, no other aspect of existence factors into evolution because it's all survival of the fittest. And I'm not, you know, it, it, we're conditioned by our social environments and political and social structures and stuff to believe these things and stuff. I'll, that's all I can say about that at this point in time at the top of my head, but I don't know. That's what I'll say. Obi Wan. Okay, I was watching Obi Wan. I tried to sit here and watch my Star Wars shows on Sunday night, and I was gonna watch Obi Wan, but it was kind of scary. You know, the Darth Vader in that Obi Wan series is a pretty scary guy, and when you're a schizophrenic, uh, things that happen in shows have effect in real life. So it watching that's that Darth Vader scares me because like things get darker when I go out into the public, and so I gotta find a way to watch it. It's a very good show. It's fun, and but it's like when you're schizophrenic, it affects reality and stuff. It Trader Joe's, I had made a comment that I didn't feel favored as a schizophrenic, even though they're trying to tell me all the time you're favored, and stuff. And I didn't feel favored, and uh, I went to Trader Joe's and they were being hostile in me towards me in there, and they were playing little middle mental romance games or psychology and stuff. And so, yeah, that happened yesterday, and it's kind of an old style of harassment that they do and stuff. Typically, Trader Joe's is like the nicer place to go in the valley, even though I go in there sometimes and they're calling me fat and stuff. And that's the nice place to go as a schizophrenic. And so, like, it's kind of funny, So, uh, abusers. I was watching a targeted individual, or I guess someone that experiences gang stalking online. They said abusers will set you up for failure and then shame you for failing, or abusers will exclude you and then tell you you're a bad team player. And I definitely experienced that through my time being a victim of game stalking and schizophrenia. And so I have experienced that type of behavior or whatever, like cult behavior. And I don't know why they do it. I think they do it so that I come on here and talk about it, but I don't really know. It's like some people say it's ritual abuse. There could be a lot of reasons, but some of it is just like to isolate me and uh, keep me from living a totally fulfilled life in which I interact with other people and share ideas and experiences and stuff. Okay, I wrote here's a synchronicity thing. I wrote artichoke on my fridge when I was writing about a list on the fridge about luteolin, the mineral that helps the brain. And I'll say real quick here that also coffee fruit, the fruit of the coffee plant, also helps grow brain cells. So I don't know what it's called. Like I think it's coffee grapes or something, or coffee cherries or something. And so yeah, I just want to share that. But I wrote artichoke on the fridge, and then I later that day randomly I wrote it right, and then later that day I picked up a few hours later or an hour later I picked up the David A. Hughes book, and he was talking about Project Artichoke in there, which is a mind control program, and he was talking about that with reference to foundational programs that led to the COVID-19 outbreak and psychological operation that was potentially part of. And uh, yeah, so I thought that was a synchronicity randomly that I would pick up that book after hearing that. All right, so I was gonna say another synchronicity. This is feedback that I get from politicians sometimes, and this recent one was from Hillary Clinton. And I do think that I wish that I would have voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 because I wish we would have nipped this Donald Trump thing in the bud before he could have ever got off the ground. And at the time, I was worried about the Middle East and war and her treating Arab blood like it was cheap. And so I didn't want to vote for her. Also, I was being tortured by the government at that time, and I didn't feel like voting for her. But now I regret it because uh, it it not voting for Democrats, in my estimation, at this point, is like enabling uh, a fascism to grow and take hold in the country and stuff. And even though there's like fascism light with the Democrats, okay, so I was referencing Hillary Clinton here because she made a statement the other day about it was a response to me, and she this is multifacetation in language that politicians use, and she said that being afraid of going on the subway is real macho man stuff because school children go on the subway, and school children go on the subway and they don't have a problem with it every day. People ride the subway, no problem. And this was a reference to me because a few days earlier I had, and the Donald Trump responded to, so it's a synchronicity of Donald Trump too. A few days earlier, I had responded on a thread post to someone saying, uh, comparing California to New York, and I was saying that I was afraid to ride the subway as a basically as a schizophrenic or whatever. But even though I know that like 95, 98, 99% of the time it's gonna be fine. It's just like there's that 1 to 3% time, or even 0.5% time that you're gonna, or I guess it's more than 0.5, but like that it's gonna be packed. You're gonna be smashed up into bodies and stuff on the train or whatever, and that's not really that fun for me. Uh, I don't think it's fun for anybody, but I don't really like that aspect of the subway. Even though I know that the subway is a marvel of engineering and transportation, and it gets people to various points in a city very efficiently, and so that's all great. And I'm not saying that subways are bad or anything like that. I'm just saying I don't. I have like a little bit of a fear of the subway because like then there's always like some wild thing can happen on the subway. Some random wild thing can happen on the subway as you're around various population of people, and just masses of people in one little space like that. Something wild can happen, and it's a very minuscule chance, but it can happen. And this person took a there was a New York person that took like offense to this or whatever, and I was saying like that it's kind of nice to have the autonomy of a car in California, and I was just saying like it's good to get from one place in a car or whatever. And so this person was saying like it's kind of very interesting that you would be afraid of the subway and not a car on the California freeway. And so I was taken back to like my last trip to New York, and Hillary Clinton was saying like, you're not a kid, or kids aren't afraid of the subway, so you shouldn't be afraid of the subway. And that's kind of what I was getting into as a middle-aged, flabby white guy. If you go out to a fancy restaurant, and not saying like I have a lot of money to go out to a fancy restaurant, but let's say you do go out to one, and then you're wearing like a weird sweater like I was wearing or whatever, and you're just like this old flabby guy walking on the subway or whatever, you're potentially a target for a group to shake you down. And it was this happened at midnight or whatever, and uh I was surveilled on the subway by a group of like people all dressed in black, and I referenced this in my thing, and I said, uh, I experienced this being surveilled on the subway by people all dressed in black, and then being shaken down for $40. It was like kind of like a soft mugging, basically. And if I think back on it, I probably wouldn't walk anywhere at midnight in LA uh, or like probably wouldn't at 40 years old in my own neighborhood, which is like this little suburb or whatever of Los Angeles. And then I also referenced in there that like I've experienced being surveilled by white supremacist groups who seek their dogs on off leashes and from their houses and that chase after me. And so I've also experienced police groups in LA trying to run me off the road in surveillance and like I guess you would say assassination attempt. I don't know. So I said pick your poison. So that's what I was just saying, and it's like then Donald Trump came out and after that responded with his National Guard deployment and everything, and then he was trying to trauma bond me to him or whatever. And I'm obviously not for National Guard being deployed to cities, and I'm not for fascist Donald Trump or anything like that. But I was just saying, pick your poison in our society between uh, inner city subway surveillance groups shaking you down for $40 versus white supremacists seeking their dogs on you in a suburb versus police groups tracking you for political assassination or whatever. And it's like, you know, that's, pick your poison. I don't know what's better and what's worse, but I particularly prefer my car and the autonomy of my car, even though it's not necessarily the safest thing either. And then, so I was just sharing that for the synchronicity that Donald Trump did with the National Guard deployment, which I am not for at all. All right, goodbye.